June 5th, 1944, 2300 hours. North of the English coast. The sky vibrates with the steady roar of transport aircraft. Inside one of these darkened fuselages, 3 men sit in full jump gear. 1 British officer from the Special Operations Executive, 1 American officer from the Office of Strategic Services, 1 French officer trained in London for covert warfare. The air is cold. You can almost feel the vibration through the floor as the aircraft crosses the channel. The red interior lamp glows faintly across canvas seats and stacked equipment. No one speaks. This is not the moment for conversation. It is the moment before insertion. Below them lies occupied France, a land filled with patrols, roadblocks, field garrisons, bridges rigged with chargers, rail lines watched by guards. German units prepare for the expected Allied assault. Every village holds tension. The aircraft banks. The loadmaster signals the team. Each man checks his static line. Each man carries a radio in a padded container. Each man carries coded paperwork for the French resistance. Each man carries the training of many months. Operation Jedburgh begins. The green light flashes. The side door opens to roaring wind. One after another, the team jumps into the night. For a few seconds, there is only darkness. Then parachutes open silently. The men drift downward through moonlit cloud. Beneath them lie fields of wheat and narrow country roads. The team lands in tall grass. They bury parachutes quickly. They reach a hedgerow and wait for a signal from local resistance contacts. This is not a story of one team. It is a story of many. Jedburgh teams deploy across Normandy, Brittany, and central France. Each team follows the same principle: a British officer, an American officer, a French officer. 3 nationalities, 1 purpose: support for the resistance and disruption of German communications after D-Day. Training for these missions had been intense: radio work, demolition skills, weapons instruction, parachute drills, field navigation. The objective was not to fight like conventional units. The objective was to organize, coordinate supply, and strike at critical points. The plan behind Operation Jedburgh is simple yet revolutionary. Small teams with mobility and local coordination can move faster than large formations. They can navigate rural terrain. They can rally existing resistance groups. They can direct airdrops of weapons. They can sabotage transport lines and slow German reinforcements heading toward Normandy. Every step after landing carries risk. German counterintelligence units patrol roads at night. They search farms and barns. They monitor suspicious movement. They track hidden radios. Anyone caught aiding parachuted Allied officers faces severe punishment. Still, the teams press forward. Hours after landing, the first team establishes its radio position. The American officer assembles the set. The British officer encodes a message. The French officer listens for distant movement. A short transmission reaches England. Landing successful. Stand by for further coordination. That message travels through Allied command channels. It confirms the arrival of a new link between London and the resistance. It sets in motion a chain of supply flights loaded with containers of explosives and rifles. By dawn, the team moves again. They avoid roads. They avoid open villages. They travel along hedgerows and woodland paths. Each step brings them closer to local resistance leaders who have been waiting for instructions from London. The men carry only what is essential: Sten guns, pistols, folding maps, a single radio rations. They rely on local guides for shelter and food. They rely on secrecy for survival. The dawn light reveals the shape of the countryside. Long fields broken by stone walls, lines of tall trees near river crossings, farmhouses with shuttered windows, all quiet at first glance. Yet German units move through these areas every day. The early hours after D-Day require speed. German formations begin to redeploy toward Normandy. Roads fill with troop carriers and armoured vehicles. The mission of every Jedburgh team is now critical: disrupt movement, delay reinforcements, strengthen resistance fighters before German units can stabilize the front. As the first day ends, the team makes contact with a local resistance commander. A coded phrase verifies identity. Instructions from London follow: prepare for arms drops, organize sabotage cells, identify targets. The foundation of the mission is secure. Through this first successful landing, a question rises. How did Allied planners build a secret army made of 3 nations and prepare it for one of the most dangerous covert operations of the entire war? To understand the arrival of those first teams in June 1944, the story must return to the months before the Normandy invasion, a period when London and Washington debated how to strike behind German lines with greater precision and faster impact than any previous campaign. The idea begins inside the Special Operations Executive in Britain. Since early in the war, this organization had trained agents for covert missions across Europe. Sabotage, intelligence gathering. support for local armed groups, yet by late 1943, a new challenge emerged. The coming invasion of Western Europe would require synchronized action across vast regions of occupied territory. Allied leaders needed a new kind of team: small, mobile, skilled in field organization, able to work with the French resistance without hesitation, able to guide air support, able to operate radios deep inside hostile terrain, and able to do so as equal partners between three nations. The Office of Strategic Services in the United States shared this vision. Under the leadership of William Donovan, the organization prepared American volunteers for irregular warfare. Many of these men were already trained in parachuting, mountain travel, and coded transmission. Free French forces based in London contributed the final essential element: officers and fighters familiar with the land and language of occupied France. They understood the structure of resistance networks. They knew regional geography from Normandy to the Loire. Their knowledge would keep teams alive long enough to complete their missions. Thus a plan emerged to combine one British officer, one American officer, one French officer, form a unit of 3 men with equal authority and shared responsibility. Train them in the same schools, equip them with the same weapons, drop them into France before and after D-Day. This would be Operation Jedburgh. Training began at secret sites in Britain, remote estates, woodland camps, firing ranges near scattered villages. Almost every day started before sunrise. Physical conditioning, weapon drills, explosive instruction, field signals, radio procedures, close terrain navigation through mist-covered hills. Radio work became one of the most important subjects. Each team needed to send coded messages to London with precise details about German movements, supply drop requests, local resistance strength, locations of sabotage targets. A single error in code could expose the team to German detection. Instructors demanded perfection. French officers trained alongside British and American counterparts without separation. This forged trust. It created a shared rhythm of movement, a shared understanding of how to approach resistance cells, a shared sense of responsibility to the mission. Weapons training focused on compact arms, Sten guns, carbines, pistols, grenades. Each man learned to pack ammunition in a way that allowed silent movement through hedgerows. Each man learned how to conceal weapons in bags used by local farmers. Every detail mattered. Demolition courses were rigorous. Instructors taught how to destroy rail lines with minimal explosive, how to cut telegraph wires without detection, how to place charges on bridges so that German units would be delayed, but civilians would remain safe. The objective was precise disruption, not widespread destruction. Parachute training followed, jumps from practice towers, jumps from aircraft during day and night. Each man had to master landing in small fields. Many French regions offered only narrow drop zones between wooded ridges and stone farmhouses. Survival required skill and calm under pressure. As training continued, Allied planners refined the purpose of each team. They would not lead resistance groups into open battles. Their real mission was coordination, strengthen local units, create channels for Allied supply, direct sabotage that slowed German movement, and form effective communication between French fighters and the advancing Allied armies. By early 1944, the first sets of Jedburgh teams were ready. They received code names formed from simple word lists. They received compact radios carried in canvas containers. They received field maps drawn by hand. They received basic rations for the first days of survival. Most important, they received instructions that reflected the strategic urgency of the coming invasion. Once in France, they needed to rally resistance units rapidly. German divisions stationed deep inside the country had the potential to reach Normandy in large numbers. Every delay created by sabotage would weaken German ability to push Allied forces back into the sea. In the final weeks before the landings, many teams waited in airfields spread across southern England. Aircrews checked engines of transport aircraft. Ground teams loaded supply containers onto platforms. Intelligence officers briefed each team on the political landscape of their target region. Some areas contained unified resistance groups. Others held rival factions with differing goals. Every team needed to navigate these realities carefully. June approached. Weather reports grew tense. Allied leadership delayed the invasion by 1 day. Jedburgh teams remained on standby. Radios crackled with updates. Operations staff reviewed maps again and again. The scale of the mission became clear. Dozens of 3-man teams would jump into a nation under occupation. Each team would serve as a link between Allied command and local fighters who had endured years of harsh German rule. At last the order came: begin deployment. Within hours, transport aircraft lifted from runways. Engines cut through the evening air. Each aircraft carried a team that represented the cooperation of 3 nations. The concept that had once been theoretical, now fully real. Jedburghs were no longer trainees or planners. They were active participants in the largest amphibious invasion in history. Yet one question followed every aircraft crossing the channel. How would these small teams influence the chaotic battle for France once German forces realized that organized sabotage had begun across their supply routes? June 6, 1944. Dawn breaks over central France. The invasion beaches lie far to the west, yet the shock of Allied landings races across the entire country. German command posts receive urgent reports. Railways buzz with frantic orders. Armoured divisions prepare to move toward Normandy. This is the moment every Jedburgh team has trained for. Throughout the countryside, radios hidden in barns and farmhouses crackle to life. Jedburgh teams send first transmissions. London replies with coded instructions for supply drops. Resistance leaders gather in secret fields. Weapons containers from Allied aircraft thud into grass during the early hours: rifles, Sten guns, explosive charges. Medical kits, all essential for the campaign about to unfold. Each team now faces a complex environment. German patrols intensify. Roadblocks appear along major routes. Convoys move at night. The enemy expects uprisings. The enemy expects sabotage. The enemy searches for any sign of Allied officers working with local fighters. Yet the Jedburgh teams proceed with methodical precision. In the region of Brittany, a team meets resistance fighters near a wooded ridge. They discuss rail lines leading toward Normandy. Small groups move out before sunrise. Charges are placed beneath rails at carefully chosen points. Moments later, explosions echo across the valley. Steel bends upward. Trains grind to a halt under sparks and screeching metal. A similar scene unfolds near Limoges. A different team guides resistance cells to attack telegraph posts. The goal is simple: cut communication, force German units to rely on slower couriers. Every delay creates confusion. In the Loire Valley, a team coordinates the destruction of a vital bridge. Not a large dramatic blow, but a precise fracture that prevents heavy vehicles from crossing. German engineers arrive hours later. Their work begins again from the ground up. Jedburgh teams observe, advise. Transmit data to London. They do not remain in one place for long. Movement is essential. A stationary team is a vulnerable team. Each day brings new tasks. Meet resistance leaders in forest clearings. Assess morale, recommend distribution of weapons. Plan night strikes, organize safe routes. Send coded updates to London. The teams operate deep within the rural heart of occupied France. Many areas lack paved roads. Some villages hold only a few stone houses. Fields stretch outward like open plains. From a distance, nothing appears unusual. Yet within those landscapes, entire networks of fighters move silently. German forces react with force. Field gendarmerie units search farmhouses. Trucks carry troops to suspected hideouts. Propaganda broadcasts threaten severe punishment for aiding Allied agents. The pressure becomes relentless. Still, the sabotage grows. Railway officials loyal to the resistance provide schedules. Farmers offer hay carts to conceal weapons. School teachers carry messages between villages. Blacksmiths repair captured equipment. Everyone contributes something. The arrival of Jedburgh teams transforms scattered local groups into coordinated regional forces. The radio becomes the most valuable tool. A single message may unlock an arms drop that changes the strength of an entire region. Teams guard their radios carefully. They choose isolated barns, stone cellars, woodland shelters. They remain in place only long enough to send. Then they move again. Some messages report progress. Others request urgent supplies. Many identify German units on the move. London uses this information to guide Allied aircraft toward targets. The impact becomes visible within days. Bombers strike rail hubs at key moments. Fighters intercept convoys heading north. The front in Normandy receives indirect support from actions taken far inland by men carrying only compact radios and small arms. By early July, entire regions of France feel the effect of coordinated resistance. In some departments, roads become nearly impassable for German traffic. Bridges collapse under sabotage. Telephone lines lie cut in tangled piles. Fields near major routes contain craters where explosives shattered the ground. Jedburgh teams remain in the center of this expanding campaign. In Brittany, one team organizes resistance fighters to block the advance of a German armored division. Explosions along the route force the formation to slow. Roadside ambushes strike at supply vehicles. Allied air support finishes what the resistance began. In central France, another team helps unify separate resistance factions that once disagreed over tactics. With guidance from the three-man team, they now coordinate attacks with precision. Their combined strength grows, yet danger increases as well. German intelligence units adapt quickly. They analyze patterns of sabotage. They search for foreign accents among captured fighters. They intercept stray signals from improperly shielded radios. Some Jedburgh teams come under fire. Others must hide for days at a time. One simple mistake can force a full retreat into remote woodland. Despite the risk, the mission continues with unbroken momentum. By late July, German commanders recognize a new reality. The interior of France is no longer a stable rear area. It has become a contested zone filled with sabotage networks and Allied-directed teams that appear without warning. Every successful action raises a new question. How will Jedburgh teams adapt as the front lines draw closer and Allied armies push deeper into France? Late July 1944. Heat settles over the hills and valleys of central France. Dust drifts above distant farm tracks. The sound of aircraft grows more frequent. The rapid advance from Normandy begins to reshape every corner of the interior. Jedburgh teams feel the shift long before it reaches the maps in London. Resistance groups report greater movement of German transports. Troop trucks pass through villages at unpredictable hours. Patrols sweep barns and fields with sharper focus. German officers sense that something vast is building inside the countryside, yet they cannot pinpoint where the next strike will appear. Jedburgh teams increase their radio traffic. Messages move between France and London with steady rhythm. Each signal carries vital data. The condition of bridges, the location of convoys, the morale of local fighters. London replies with guidance for new drops, explosives, Sten guns, medical stores, radio batteries. The airwaves become a hidden battlefield. In the region of Auvergne, a team directs resistance groups toward a vulnerable supply corridor that feeds German units near Normandy. Charges placed beneath culverts erupt after nightfall. Stone fragments scatter across dark roads. Repair crews rush to the scene. Their presence slows the movement of vehicles that German commanders desperately need at the front. Near Clermont-Ferrand, a team receives a schedule from railway workers who secretly support the resistance. A German ammunition train will pass a specific junction before dawn. The team radios London. Hours later, Allied aircraft strike the location with precise timing. Flames rise above the rails. The explosion shakes the surrounding valley. Across southern and western France, similar stories unfold. Small groups ambush convoys using recently delivered weapons. Bridges suffer deliberate fractures. Telegraph lines vanish beneath steady sabotage. Each action appears minor on its own. Together they form a growing wave that disrupts German control throughout entire regions. Jedburgh teams provide structure to this wave. They move constantly. They avoid major roads. They enter villages only when absolutely necessary. They hide radios in stone cellars, in woodland shelters, in barns used only at night. They maintain strict discipline. A lost radio can cripple an entire network. Yet their presence strengthens thousands of fighters. In Brittany, one team coordinates resistance actions that slow the retreat of a German armoured formation. Trees fall across forest roads. Small groups attack supply vehicles from hidden positions. Allied aircraft join the effort. Together they create a moving barrier that bleeds momentum from the retreating force. In the Limousin region, a team unifies several resistance factions that once disagreed over methods. They outline simple military logic. They explain the need for coordination. Regional efforts begin to operate with clarity and purpose. The results become visible in the speed and accuracy of new attacks. Danger grows sharper with every success. German intelligence units examine patterns in the destruction. They note the timing. They sense foreign influence. They watch for rumors of Allied agents. They monitor the skies for aircraft that may signal new drops. Their raids become ruthless. Several Jedburgh teams narrowly escape capture. Some hide in forest caves for days. Others abandon safe houses minutes before patrols arrive. Still, the mission continues. Early August marks a turning point. Allied forces break out from Normandy. Their advance toward the Seine River begins to accelerate. This surge creates new opportunities for resistance. German logistics strain under the pressure. Supply lines stretch thin. Command posts struggle to react to the speed of events. Jedburgh teams recognize the moment. They guide fighters toward targets that will cripple the remaining flow of resources. Fuel depots, communication centers, rail hubs. Bridges essential for retreat. Teams request new drops. London responds with urgency. More explosives arrive. More ammunition, more radios. In the region near Chartres, a team locates a planned German regrouping point. They send a coded warning to London. Allied bombers strike the site within hours. The attack disrupts German preparations and accelerates their withdrawal. The interior of France transforms into a series of contested zones. Villages rise in open resistance. Roadside ambushes become daily events. German commanders issue frantic orders yet cannot restore stability. Jedburgh teams stand at the center of this growing storm. But the mission is far from complete. As Allied forces approach the Seine, a new question emerges. What role will Jedburgh teams play when the resistance begins to fight in open daylight, rather than in shadows? Late August 1944. The outskirts of Paris shiver under distant gunfire. Smoke rises from roadsides where German units clash with resistance forces. Jedburgh teams move carefully through villages now filled with armed civilians. They carry radios, they carry maps. They carry the knowledge of months spent guiding the interior of France. Every step brings them closer to the capital and the decisive moments of the campaign. The resistance now fights openly. Fighters establish checkpoints along streets. They block German reinforcements from reaching critical intersections. Supply caches are distributed quickly. Explosives from Allied drops are positioned to control bridges and key buildings. Jedburgh teams coordinate these efforts with military precision. In the western arrondissements, a team instructs resistance fighters on defensive positioning. They establish fallback points in case German forces counterattack. Their guidance transforms scattered groups into disciplined units capable of holding streets against experienced soldiers. Orders are relayed via portable radios and runners who risk capture on every block. Near the Seine banks, another team monitors German withdrawal routes. They advise which bridges should be destroyed to prevent regrouping. Artillery units report via Jedburgh channels to Allied commanders in Normandy. The flow of intelligence ensures that German retreats become disorganized and slow. Allied forces can advance with reduced opposition. Everywhere the pattern repeats. Resistance fighters strike with precision. German convoys are delayed or destroyed. Supply lines collapse under targeted sabotage. Key intersections are secured in advance of advancing Allied columns. Jedburgh teams observe, direct and report. Their small numbers amplify the effectiveness of thousands of fighters and support units. Radios carry coded instructions. Messages request reinforcements or signal new priorities. Teams never linger in one place. Their survival ensures the continuity of command behind the front lines. Danger is omnipresent. German snipers and patrols scan streets and fields. Encounters are sudden and violent. One misstep can expose entire units. Jedburgh teams adapt with constant vigilance. Movement is calculated. Observation is thorough. Each decision carries strategic consequences far beyond the immediate area. By 25th August, the German command realizes the situation is untenable. Units begin retreating toward eastern France. Bridges collapse behind them. Trains halt due to damaged tracks. Fuel shortages prevent rapid withdrawal. Resistance fighters guided by Jedburgh teams exploit every weakness. The interior of France becomes a hostile maze for German forces. Jedburgh teams push forward alongside resistance groups. Coordination reaches its peak. Fighters from previously isolated regions now operate as a unified force. Allied air support strikes with updated intelligence. Convoys are destroyed before they can regroup. The liberation effort accelerates. The final challenge emerges as the teams approach Paris. Urban warfare introduces complexity, unlike rural operations. Civilians are everywhere. German snipers occupy rooftops. Key locations must be secured with minimal destruction. Jedburgh teams must coordinate carefully. They relay plans to resistance leaders and Allied commanders simultaneously. Each decision shapes the fate of a capital city. On 25th August, the uprising in Paris begins. Resistance units, supported by Jedburgh teams, move strategically. Streets fill with armed fighters. Checkpoints appear along key avenues. German units attempt to resist but are surrounded. Explosions and gunfire mark the struggle. Communication from the teams ensures Allied columns advancing from outside the city do not interfere with resistance operations. The culmination of months of planning, training, and coordination becomes visible. Jedburgh teams, once small three-man units operating in secrecy, now guide the largest concentration of resistance action seen in France. Their influence is decisive in shaping the liberation of Paris. Yet one question lingers as the city rises in defiance. How will these small units maintain order and communication as Allied forces establish formal control over a liberated nation? Late August 1944, Paris is free. The city awakens to the sound of bells, cheers, and the presence of Allied troops. Streets once occupied by German forces now host Allied flags. Resistance fighters emerge from hidden cellars and basements. The work of months of clandestine operations reaches its visible climax. Jedburgh teams stand at the center of this transformation. Small units whose actions helped reshape the course of the liberation. Their mission continues even after the city falls. They coordinate the handover of weapons. They guide newly formed local militias to maintain security. They report remaining pockets of German resistance. Each communication informs Allied commanders who push east toward the final German defensive positions. Jedburgh teams serve as both operational coordinators and liaisons between civilian fighters and professional armies. Beyond Paris, the impact of Jedburgh operations becomes apparent across France. Rail networks remain disrupted. Key roads are blocked by felled trees and controlled demolitions. German units continue to retreat in disarray. Regions once isolated now function as integrated zones of Allied influence and resistance activity. The intelligence gathered by the teams informs strategic decisions that save countless lives during the continued advance into occupied territory. The teams themselves reflect the evolution of modern special operations. Small units trained to operate independently, combining skill, stealth, and coordination with local forces, demonstrate that impact is not measured by size alone. A few officers with radios, maps, and careful planning can amplify the strength of thousands of local fighters. This principle would influence post-war military doctrine in the formation of specialized forces across the Allied nations. Jedburgh teams are extracted from France after their missions conclude. Some return to England. Others join new operations in Belgium and the Netherlands. The knowledge gained in training, coordination, and rapid adaptation becomes part of the foundation of post-war special operations strategy. The collaboration of British SOE, American OSS, and Free French personnel provides multinational joint operations in future conflicts. The liberation of Paris and the broader impact across France demonstrates the significance of small teams embedded with local populations. The methods developed during Operation Jedburgh inform the creation of modern commando units. Their legacy shapes the understanding of irregular warfare, sabotage, and intelligence operations to come. Operation Jedburgh did more than assist the immediate Allied advance. It changed how nations understand unconventional warfare. It proved that careful planning, coordination, and trust between local fighters and specialized officers can disrupt larger conventional forces. The success of these three-man teams illustrates the potential of asymmetric strategy in a total war. The streets of Paris, once tense with occupation, now hum with the sounds of celebration and rebuilding. Every bridge held, every rail line sabotaged, every message sent by a Jedburgh team played a part in creating this moment. Their story is a testament to courage, ingenuity, and the quiet influence of those who operate in the shadows. From the first parachute drop in June to the liberation in August, Operation Jedburgh exemplifies the birth of modern special forces. Small teams acting decisively can shift the balance of larger conflicts. Their work in occupied France remains a case study in precision, courage, and collaboration under extreme conditions. The question that lingers for future generations is simple.